So, welcome everybody. I'm Sue Cooper, co-director of Feast for the Soul in our 17th year, and I'm thrilled that we are again this year doing conversations or hosting conversations with people who inspire, people who offer wellness, well-being, and hope into our world. And tonight, on our first Thriving Thursday talk, that's a bit of a mouthful, I am absolutely thrilled to welcome Nancy Adams of Capacitar, Scotland. Capacitar is Spanish, and it means to empower and to encourage. That's exactly what we need at this moment in time. And these beautiful practices were developed from 1988, where Pat Kane started Capacitar International. But Nancy, you know far more about it than I do. So I'd love you if you were just to say a little bit about Capacitar and what we're doing today, and I will lead you with just a few questions. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sue, and thank you for the opportunity to share the story of Capacitar with Feast for the Soul. Perhaps not surprisingly, Capacitar's story incorporated what you have called the 4 Ps from the very beginning. It began, as you mentioned, in 1988 during the war years in Nicaragua. Our founder, Dr. Pat Kane, had been invited to do some art therapy at an art festival in the barrios of Managua, where people were living amongst violence and poverty. There had also been one natural disaster after another, leaving their communities traumatized. So to manage her own stress as she worked in this challenging environment, Pat began and ended her day by paying attention to her own self-care. She used simple energy practices like Tai Chi, acupressure for her neck and shoulders, finger holds to manage her emotions. And one morning, having noticed what Pat was doing, a Nicaraguan colleague said to her, your art is great, but what we need is for you to teach us what you do to care for yourself. So these women had recognized intuitively the value of these ancient wellness practices to deal with the ongoing collective trauma and violence of their lives. So that grassroots center in Managua was the catalyst and the inspiration for Capacitar International. And from these Nicaraguan women, as you said, Sue, came the word capacitar. It's a Spanish verb meaning to empower, to encourage, to bring to life. And it became the name of our organization and the spirit of a movement that has grown exponentially over the past 35 years. So the vision is to empower people in their own healing process to transform their wounds into wisdom, to empower people to survive and to flourish, and to share that empowerment with other people. So thinking about your 4 Ps, I wonder whether our vision is focused perhaps a bit more on personal and collective healing than seeking peace. Because of course, with the healing of body, mind, and spirit, an outcome would hopefully be personal, collective, and global peace. But Capacitar recognizes that we live in a world where there is far too much individual and collective trauma at every level of society. We don't need to look very far to see the trauma caused by violence and war, by social inequality, by political indifference, by drugs and trafficking of people, by the climate crisis, by the pandemic, by social media. But we also know that trauma, if it's not attended to, gets lodged in our bodies, leading to physical, emotional, and psychological problems. This also makes it more difficult to access our own inner spiritual resources. If you're interested, actually, a seminal book of research about this is The Body Keeps the Score by the Dutch psychiatrist Bessel van der Kolk. So going back to Capacitar, our strapline became healing ourselves, healing our world, a vision that incorporates all 4 of your Ps. We address healing of the individual person within the community of people. We do this by invitation in the places within which they live on this precious planet that contains and nurtures us. And if I can just add another P to your 4, the means by which we do this has been called popular education. Pat Kane adapted this approach by suggesting that everyone has within them body literacy. And by integrating skills for body, mind, and spirit, popular education awakens people to their own body wisdom and capabilities. So those first capacitor workshops in Central America gave people simple tools such as body movement, acupressure, breath work, tapping exercises, things they could use for themselves to manage their emotions as they dealt with the ongoing stress and trauma around them. So as they healed their own bodies, minds, and spirits, and transformed their lives, people were empowered to reach out and to bring peace and healing to their families, communities, and societies.
No.
Sorry, that's a rather long answer. I'm sorry.
No, please don't apologize. It's painting a beautiful picture. And I did forget at the beginning to mention what the 4 Ps were, so forgive me. It's very much about as we care for ourselves to start with, which is what Feast is about, which is person. We naturally, as we fill ourselves, we have that ability and that extra energy to care for each other, persons. And then as we do this, we move into community, into place, and we radiate out together as a community, as we are doing here, into the planet. And then when we can do that, we change the energy, we shift. We shift from a negative to a positive. So, Nancy, I beg your pardon. Nancy, could you share with us exactly where these Capacitar hubs are that are throughout the world? Just a few of the places where we might be.
Okay, well, I mean, over the past 35 years, we've worked alongside people in their communities within 45 countries. So we're in the Americas, Africa, Europe, Asia, the Middle East. As I mentioned, we began by responding to the needs of people living in crises, refugees of political or domestic violence, internally displaced people, families of the disappeared, and survivors of natural and man-made disasters. But then there was a growing awareness of intergenerational trauma, collective trauma everywhere, and Capacitor continued to develop its work on how trauma is manifest in the body and how it can be released and managed. So to share this as widely as possible, Pat Kane put together an emergency kit of practices for well-being and management of our emotions. They are effective, they're very easy to use and easy to teach others. And over the years, it's been translated into 45 different languages and used across the world. So that's something that can be downloaded from the Capacitar International website and makes it very easy to share with people from so many different cultures and languages, because they are in 45 languages. And if there's a language that you feel that you need it in and it's not there, just let us know and we'll see if we can get it translated.
Oh, thank you. Someone's asking to share the website. I'll pop that in a moment. And I'd also love, towards the end, if we can pop the reference to the book that you mentioned, because I'm personally very interested. So I think now, shall we move into a few practices? What I'll do is I'll take myself off spot and then put you into the main frame, and we can move along with you. Is that okay?
Absolutely. So what I'd like to do, can you hear me okay just now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I've put these on so that when I move away from my computer, I'd like to share with you 4 of the Tai Chi movements for the 4 elements, as I mentioned before: earth and water, fire and air. And I chose these Tai Chi practices because it exemplifies how we do integrate healing ourselves with healing our world. They're very simple movements. They don't require any fancy footwork. Apart from the first one, the earth, which we do standing facing straight ahead, the other 3 have us stepping slightly forward to the left when we do the movement for ourselves, and slightly forward to the right when we do it for our world and connect with our world. But actually, they could be done sitting down as well. They can be done slowly and silently, matching the pattern and rhythm of our breath with the movement, or they can be done with meditative music. They can even be done a bit more quickly to a more lively tune, whatever works best for you. When we do these movements, we are very concerned about the intention, or more concerned about the intention with the movement rather than perfection of the movement. So the emphasis is on the intention, not the technique. For our purposes today, I'll do these 4 movements more meditatively and without music. And we always remind people to be mindful of their own bodies. So be mindful of your joints and spines or any place that you are aware of that needs particular caution or care. Never do anything that causes you any additional discomfort or pain. So if you are able, I invite you to stand up and join me. And I'll just move my computer here. Okay, so let's just begin by slowly moving our hands back and forth, just becoming aware of our energy, loosening our body, and then let them slowly come to rest. And if you have your feet just about shoulder width apart, your knees a little bit loose, your body straight and aligned between heaven and earth, give your hands a little rub so that we tap into our energy, and then you might move them apart so you feel that energy between the palms of your hands. Rub them again, and then just move them apart and feel that energy. Then put your hands together at the level of your heart. And we're going to move into that sacred space within us, mindful and aware of our breath. We become present to ourself and to this community from around the world. So just take a deep breath or two. And then move your hands down to the root, just down below our pubic bone here. And this is the earth, the rocking movement. We do this one for grounding ourselves when we are in a place of stress, when our energy is scattered, or when we're working with people with trauma. It's a good one to do in between seeing patients and clients. So we begin by just bringing our hands up, bringing up earth energy, turning them and bringing them down. And if you're able, this time come up onto the balls of your feet and back down onto your heels. Sometimes it's easier to do this one without shoes, but just be aware of if you align yourselves with your head straight up, then it's a little bit easier. You don't want to fall over. So as we do this, we breathe in with the earth and we let the earth breathe with us. We fill ourselves with its healing and nourishing energy. And with gratitude, we let the earth ground us. We let it connect us to our roots, to our ancestors, and to all of life on this precious planet. And then we think of people in the world who have been uprooted from their communities without any sense of what it feels to be grounded. We hold them in our hearts, we hold them in the light, and we breathe out loving kindness. And one more time, we let the earth ground us. And then we come back and rest in the root. And we move up to just below our navel. This is the place of water. And we turn very gently to the left and just put our left foot forward slightly. And we're going to do the shower of light movement. So we bring our hands up and just over our heads, imagining a shower of light. On this side, we do it for ourselves. We bring up the energy of the earth to cover us, to nourish us, to cleanse us. And we might reflect with gratitude on the many ways in which we use water daily, for drinking and cooking, for cleaning ourselves, for nourishing both ourselves and our plants. And we might also be mindful of the fact that our bodies are between 45 and 75% water. So without this wonderful element of water, we would cease to exist. One more time, we do it for ourselves. And then come back very gently to center, and we step to the right. And we do the same movement again, but this time we connect with our world. And we think of the people across the world who have no access to clean drinking water. People who might spend most of their day just trying to access water. We think of the people who have lived with flooding, who have been displaced because of flooding. And people who live in drought when there's not enough water. We hold them in our hearts, we hold them in the light, and we breathe out loving kindness. And one more time, we connect with our world. And we come back to center again. And then we move up to our solar plexus, this place of energy, of fire. And we step to the left again. And we do a circle of light, moving our hands in a clockwise position, as though we've got our hands on top of a big ball of fire, ball of energy. We become aware of our own energy, of what gives us life, what we are passionate about. And then we also think of the role that fire plays in our lives each day, enabling us to cook, keeping us warm, providing light in the darkness. And one more time, we nourish ourselves with this healing ball of fire. And we come back to center for a moment, and we step to the right. And this time again, we connect with our world, but we do the circle of light in the opposite direction. And this time we connect with people across the world who are unable to connect with our own energy reserves. These are people struggling to simply stay alive each day. We also think of people who have been displaced because of fire. People living in places of drought, where there's loss of crops, places that are now, because of climate change, too hot to live in, too dry to flourish. We hold them in our hearts, we hold them in the light, and we breathe out loving kindness. And one more time, we connect with our world. And we come back to center. And then we move up to our heart. This is the place of air. And we step to the left again for ourselves. And this time at the level of our heart, we push our hands away, letting go. And then turn them and bring them back in, and we breathe in. So we're particularly conscious of our breath. We breathe out and we let go. And we breathe in tender, loving kindness towards ourselves, letting go of fear and anger, judgment, anything that holds us from looking after our own self-care. And we breathe back in tenderness towards ourselves, and the recognition that if we don't look after ourselves, then we will be less effective in looking after others. So one more time, we breathe out and let go of any suffering, any wounds in our hearts, and breathe back in, letting them be transformed into wisdom. And we step back to the center for a moment, and then again turn to the right and do the same movement to the right as we connect with our world again. This time we're connecting with someone that we may know suffering in body, mind, or spirit just now, people living with loss or grief, people living in conflict zones, living with violence and fear and anger, yearning for peace with justice. We breathe out healing, we breathe out reconciliation, we breathe out tenderness and compassion. And once more, we connect with our world. And then come back and just for a moment, just give yourself a hug. So at this level of our heart, we're just aware of how important it is to be kind to ourselves. This was particularly important during the pandemic when so many people lived on their own and hardly touched each other for so many months on end. So every now and again, don't forget just to give yourself a hug. Then we put our hands together and our feet, and we say, Namaste. The sacred within me honors the sacred within you. Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I love that so much, the interconnection through the elements, through the movement. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you. How do we find out more? How do we find out more about you, where you are in Scotland, and more about Capacitar? Oh, I think you might be muted. Oh,
She's not
Yeah.
for training.
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, thank you.
So the Capacitar International website has a lot of information about the Capacitar story. You can download the emergency kits there. There are links to the YouTubes that there are for I think nearly all of the 30 or so odd practices that we teach. There's capacitaruk.org. That's for England and Scotland, basically at the moment, although we incorporate Wales and Northern Ireland, but they don't have a part of the website yet. But on the Capacitar Scotland page, there's quite a bit about our relationship with the QNIS nurses, because we've done a lot of work with them over the pandemic. We were able to train about 50 Queen's nurses to take some of the teachings and the practices back into their communities. So we have a lovely relationship with the Queen's nurses. So that's on the Scotland page of the Capacitar UK website. And you can also find there a whole list of practices, sessions, well-being sessions that are done both in person across Scotland and on Zoom. And also, if you're in England, then there is a page there for England that also provides some information about the training they do. Capacitar Ireland has their own website, and Wales is, they have a group of people there that work at a community, and they do a lot of work with offering well-beings to people who are carers. So that's a retreat center in Wales that does that. So those are the two main Capacitar websites. But of course, as we mentioned before, there's the QNIS website and their well-being page. And so many of the Queen's nurses that we trained are now there doing some of these amazing YouTubes to show you how to link into some of the practices, particularly the very short ones that can be done between moving from one thing to another. So those are the main areas of getting information on the website. If you want, you can put your name down to get the Capacitar Scotland newsletter, which I try to send out every few months to provide more information about training, well-being days, taster days, and information from Capacitar International. So there's lots of information around.
That is. And do you teach people to become teachers of this? You and the whole Capacitar International.
There are three levels of people. There's the trainers, and we have Pat Kane is one of the trainers. Sheila, if Sheila's still with us here, is one of the trainers in America. Ali Newell and I are trainers in Scotland, and there are trainers in other countries. Argentina, they've got a couple. So there are 2 or 3 people or maybe 2 or 3 or 4 people that do the training of courses. The people that take the courses then become what are called facilitators, and they are able to go out and offer well-being sessions using Capacitar practices. And the people that benefit from all of that are called multipliers, because it's that whole way of being able to, like a pebble in a pond, spreading out the well-being practices from those that are offering the training to those that are trained to those that go on and share them with others. Mm-hmm. So we're just about to begin a new training in Edinburgh on the 3rd of February. So if anybody's interested in doing that training, please get in touch with me.
Wonderful. And they can get in touch with you through me as a Feast for the Soul, and we can pass that on. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much. For the recording, would you say again the name of the book that you mentioned at the beginning, and also say the Capacitar website for those who don't have the chat option?
The name of the book is The Body Keeps the Score, and it's Bessel van der Kolk. He's a Dutch psychiatrist. So The Body Keeps the Score. And capacitar.org is the website. And it's Capacitar with Capacitar. It's an A at the end rather than E. Sometimes people use an E. But I can put it in the the chat if you want, as soon as we're finished here.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Nancy, that has been extraordinary. It's been beautiful. Thank you so much. Congratulations to Capacitar Scotland and Capacitar International for the work that you're doing in the areas where we remember and we send love, and to be able to do that now feels that we are active. We're actively adding to the collective field of love and healing and peace. So thank you so much for joining us.
I'm so grateful to Sue for offering that opportunity. So thank you so much.